Hi, I'm Ian Griffiths, and this is a talk from the Building Silverlight Business Applications series. In this talk, we'll explore the rich text box control added in Silverlight 4. Our example application in this series, the Event Manager, has a couple of places where free-form descriptive text could be useful. There's the event description, and then for user registration, we might want to offer users a place to provide information about themselves. If we're going to provide forums or similar social features, personalization is important. And it seems a bit weak to offer just plain text for these scenarios. The rich text box offers a better way to do this. In fact, it fulfills two roles. First, it provides editing, much like a normal text box, only with the ability to edit text with a mixture of font styles, weights, colors, and so on. Second, it has a read-only mode in which it can render rich text, allowing selection and copying of that text. Whether editing or just displaying text, the rich text box relies on Silverlight's text object model, which has been expanded in Silverlight 4. Previously, Silverlight offered just two types derived from inline, line break and run. These continue to work as they always did, but we now get other types that you'll recognize if you're familiar with WPS text object model. The span type, which derives from inline, allows formatting to be applied to a range of text. Spans can be nested within spans, allowing styles to be combined. And there are specialized types derived from span, such as bold and italic. These don't do anything that you can't do with span, but they offer a more succinct syntax. The rich text box is able to host normal UI elements in line with the text, through the use of the inline UI container type. Besides these inline types, Silverlight 4 also adds the block base class along with two block types. Paragraph does what its name suggests. Section applies formatting to one or more blocks. It can be used to format multiple paragraphs in much the same way that a span can apply formatting to a body of text within a paragraph. The rich text box's content property is called blocks, and it contains a collection of block elements. So we typically populate a rich text box by providing a sequence of paragraphs or sections. The rich text box also supports the use of strings containing XAML, representing the formatted text. Its XAML property allows the content to be read or written in this format. This can sometimes be more convenient than working with the object model. For example, the XAML property is a convenient mechanism for storing formatted text in a database. You can put the property value directly into a text column. I've created a very basic empty Silverlight application here just to illustrate the rich text box in action. So let me create a rich text box. And as I mentioned, the content property is a sequence of blocks, so we'll start by putting a paragraph in here. Just say this is some text. And you can see the text starts to appear. Let me crank the font size up a little so we can see what's going on. And I can use one of these span-based elements, such as bold, to say this is some bold text. Notice that as we run out of space, it actually crops by default, much like the text block element does. So if you want this to wrap the text, we need to turn text wrapping on. So let's do that. Text wrapping equals wrap, and then it will start to make sure the text fits properly. Obviously, we've got the italic element as well. And you can mix the styles. So if I have something like this, I can put the italic inside. Now you may notice that the spacing is going a bit funny here. I'm not getting spaces here. This is actually a feature of the preview designer. In runtime, this will actually look a little different. You can see it is actually putting spaces in as you'd expect. So the Silverlight plugin correctly handles the white space rules. The Visual Studio preview doesn't quite get it correct, but you can just ignore that. It does the right thing at runtime. Now, these elements here, bold and italic, don't really do anything I couldn't do with the basic span element, which is their base class. I just have to be a little bit more verbose. I can say span font weight equals bold. And this text will also be in bold. I can set other properties here, such as the font family. But that also works on things like italic and bold as well, because they're all derived from the span base type. So really span is all I technically need, but the bold and italic tags are just a little bit easier. So if I run this right now, the text box is in edit mode, so I can move things around, I can sort of copy stuff, and it will copy the styling across. So it's basically like an editable text box, it just happens to be able to support formatting. Now actually by default, if I do something like Control B, the browser will end up picking up the results, and it doesn't pass the keystrokes through to Silverlight, so the standard keystrokes you might expect just don't work, and there isn't really a way of fixing that when things are running inside of the browser. But if you want to have editing of text where you can change the formatting, a little bit of code and some buttons and so on need to be added around the edge, and you can just use the selection property of the rich text box to apply styles to the selected text. Now, the rich text box also has a read-only mode. If I say is read-only equals true, and run this again, I can select the text, but I can't type anything. This is more like sort of the way web browsers display content. This just lets me look at what's going on, but I can't actually edit. Now obviously if I start to have more content, I'm going to run out of space vertically, and let's see what happens there. I'm going to paste in a few extra paragraphs. So this is just the sort of standard Lipsum pseudo-Latin stuff to fill things up, and let me run that again. And you can see it hasn't really quite fitted, but I've also not got visible scroll bars. Now the main region is actually scrollable. If I select, you can see it starts to scroll. It's just that it doesn't show the scroll bars by default, and also the mouse wheel works. I can mouse wheel up and down. If I want the scroll bars to be visible, I just simply have to turn them on. So let me go to the rich text box here and say vertical scroll bar visibility equals visible, and then I get a vertical scroll bar, and the thing starts to sort of feel a bit like you'd expect an HTML viewer to feel. So that's the rich text box. Gives us the ability to display and optionally edit formatted text.